listening to Retro Truck with the Caramel Apples, the apple snack that brings you a retro vibe, both crunchy and sweet, with your hosts, Kennedy Rizzo and Cooper Lee.
Rose Nylund. Oh my goodness, I can't believe we have gotten through yet another season of Retro Trek with the Caramel Apples.
Yeah.
We have been doing this for a little while, and it's getting more fun and more interesting as we, go over some of our favorite retro topics of yesteryear.
Yeah, I have to say, every season, there's little gems in there that's like, oh, so excited to do that. Not that, we pick the topics, right? So
Of course we do.
And we like all of them. But
Totally.
There's some that really stand out, and coming to the conclusion of season 7, wrapping it up with the Golden Girls, it's like, that one's a long time coming.
Yes, it was. And as we said, like our apple snacks, they're just little retro nostalgic appetizers, to hold you orchard archivers over to the next season. All the exciting goodness it offers, but
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
We just ended with the Golden Girls, and so now we're gonna do each individual Golden Girl.
Yay!
Yeah, and we're just gonna talk about each of them each week a little bit. Our favorite episodes, what we liked about their personalities, how they contributed to the whole Golden Girls conglomerate. So this week, who are we talking about, Coop?
That would be Rose Nylund.
Rose Nylund.
When I was a little girl back in St.Olaf. I remember when I was a little girl back in St.Olaf.
Oh my goodness. So, what can we say about Rose?
Oh wow. You know what? I think that was the interesting part about the Golden Girls. They all had their very individuality.
They did.
And Rose was, she was just so sweet and kind and, wanted to give everybody a helping hand.
She did.
And I like that. It was like, she was very individual in that. And
yeah.
She definitely brought her troubles though.
She did. She was blissfully unaware, and yes, they would find her like steel shavings to a magnet.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rose was portrayed on a comical standpoint. Like you said, she was naive and a little simple-minded.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was innocent, but very kind-hearted. I think Rose might be a fan favorite for many,
Yeah.
All the girls, like you said, had wonderful chemistry. Like, it's almost hard to pick a favorite.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But Rose, there is such a likability about her persona, her character within the Golden Girls. It's hard not to be drawn to, her acting prowess, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. And, like, it was nice because they went back enough in her backstory. The fact that, she grew up in an orphanage, which could easily lend to her being that kind-hearted person, being like, I never want anyone to feel like I ever felt. You know, and you always have a family or a home with me, I'll take you in. She was all about the strays, whether it was animals, people,
She loved, because that was baked into the plot on how she, looking for a roommate, I think she had a kitty cat that what was his name, Mr. Peepers?
I think that did sound familiar.
Like Mr. Peepers.
Yeah.
Finally, someone she can talk to.
Yeah, Rose was always into animals, And so much so, I really enjoyed over the years how they baked animal appearances into the show.
Yeah.
Like they'd be babysitting for people on a marathon run. They did babies too, but animals, and they'd actually show dogs coming in the house or whatever. And Rose had a knack for them.
She did.
They had a rapport. You could tell that they had that camaraderie between each other, understanding.
Yeah.
But Rose, she she was best known for her rambling of somewhat nonsensical stories.
Yes.
Of her bizarre hometown village of St.Olaf. That in Minnesota.
Yes.
So, I mean, how many a scene at the kitchen table would, she'd start off, talking about back in St.Olaf.
Yeah.
And then Dorothy and her terse look, she'd be ready to shoot daggers at her for like, oh no, not this again.
Yeah. And then they'd always, when she'd start into these stories or some other kind of shenanigans, it got to be a thing, where they'd pick up a newspaper and hit her in the head with it.
I know. I remember that.
And I do think there was one scene where she was saying something, and Dorothy was like, hand me that newspaper. And she goes, she just about did it, and then she went, no, wait, you're going to hit me in the head with it. She goes, no, I won't. She goes, you promise? I promise. She hands it to Dorothy. Dorothy hands it to Blanche, and Blanche hits her in the head with it.
So they kept their word, didn't they?
They did.
I don't know. There was just many a great moment on this show.
Oh, yeah.
They actually showed, well, before that, they actually explained how she came to Miami to be a housemate. That she had lost her precious husband, Charlie. I think he was a senior because there was a Charlie Jr. she referenced as a child. I think she had 5 kids.
Oh, I vaguely... Actually, you know what? I don't remember that she had that many.
Yeah, I think they only showed the girls, a couple of the girls on it, Kirsten and Bridget.
Okay, yeah.
But Charlie, you could tell, and this is just how it was with older relationships. They were together. Yeah. They loved each other. Love meant something. Yes. So when her husband passed, he had a heart attack, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, there was a little edge to the story of him having a heart attack. We won't get into it, but that was part of it. But Charlie was the love of her life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then they introduced a couple of love interests over the years with Miles.
Yeah, Miles Weber, I think was his name. Yeah. And wasn't he kind of like in supposed to be like in the witness protection program?
Yeah, that
later on
that went crazy. Yeah, it's like if they're starting to run into walls.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's like he started off being very much some other sort of character, like, and then that got baked into the storyline for him, and it was like, where'd that come from? Like, why wouldn't that have been something like you said, maybe they're starting to draw things out of the hat, see what works.
And another thing, shows back in the day, and this happened a lot on the Golden Girls, was they would repurpose supporting cast, supporting stars, and Miles, her love interest, he actually showed up early on in an earlier season. He was Arnie. Remember, he was
I do remember that.
Yeah, that was actor Harold Gould.
Now, I can't remember, was he still a love interest for Rose? I don't remember that.
Yes.
Yeah, so Arnie turned into Miles.
Yes.
But not in the witness protection thing. He was a completely different character at that time. Oh my goodness.
Yes. That's how that played out.
Well, like you said, this happened a lot back then because this was before, they really thought about like syndication probably, or really like, people being able to go back and connect dots because you can buy the whole set and watch them back to back.
Collect the whole set.
Yes.
Thank you, Ace. He was in Miami too for a while.
He was.
Yeah, but I think before we wrap up, our discussion on Rose Nylund this week, I think they said that like her fabled birthday was like March 12th or March 16th, 1930. Wow. Which would have put her at between 55 and 62 years old, the seasons that they played on. Oh. Because it came out, Golden Girls come out in 84. Mm-hmm, yeah. So that would put her as middle age, which honestly, they looked good for their age. I guess they looked their age. But to me, I mean, she looks older than 55. Like, they all look like they're really a lot older than they were portrayed. So
yes.
But it worked.
Well, I mean, because you think about a 55-year-old now, they don't really,
a lot younger looking.
Yeah, so they definitely look grandma type.
They did.
Back then.
They did. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, though, can you think of a couple of episodes or whatever that was your favorite, or what was some of the things that you really liked about Rose that you want to share with the archivers?
Well, I do remember there was an episode where she was kind of sparking at people.
Uh-oh.
And that was very not Rose, right? I mean, everybody knew quickly right off that something was wrong. And come to find out that she had an old farming injury back in St.Olaf. And she'd been taking, some help RX,
Gotcha.
for 30 some years.
Oh.
And, Blanche and Dorothy were immediately like, this is not okay. You need to get some help. And she's like, no. Everything's fine. I just need your help. If you can help me, I can get through it. So, long story short, they tried.
Okay.
But she ended up having a little relapse. But by the end of the show, she had went in for a month-long stint. But we're talking the matter of a commercial break. Come back. She's back from after the month. And everything turned out okay. And she licked it. But
okay.
Dorothy, listen, before Rose gets here, can I ask you something?
Sure.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
What is it?
If you think it's none of my business, just say, Blanche, it's none of your business. Have you noticed that Rose has been acting peculiar?
Yes, Blanche, from the first day I met her.
that was the other thing. They bring all kinds of storylines into Golden Girls.
They really did.
But it was interesting that it was the twist that it being Rose who actually, was dealing with this particular storyline.
Okay.
What about you?
Real quick, though, what season was that? Do you remember which season that was?
I think it was season 4.
Okay.
I think.
I have a bad habit of looking more at the first couple of seasons.
Oh, yeah.
So I need to go, I've got them all, so I need to go back and check that out, because I do remember that, but it's hazy.
Yeah, you need to brush up on that.
I do need to. That's a good excuse to go watch the Golden Girls. Anytime is good. One of my favorite episodes of Rose's was when she was dating somebody. I think this is season 1.
Okay.
And it's called A Little Romance. And she was keeping it quiet. She was keeping it secret. It's somebody she met because she worked at the help center. She's a grief counselor.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
So she was striking up a friendship with one of the psychiatrists, and then Blanche and Dorothy and Sophia are all like, that is so cool. A doctor, a psychiatrist?
Ooh.
When we gonna meet him? And Rose was acting weird about it. They couldn't figure out why she wouldn't just bring him over. So they invited him over for dinner, and come to find out, he was a little person.
I remember that. Yes.
Yes, and they kept making jokes and trying to make conversation with him through the evening, and they would keep putting their foot in their mouths, Especially Blanche. She was like, oh, I wish I was dead.
Shrimp?
Oh, good. What are we having? Short ribs.
And he's wearing the cutest little gray suit I think I've ever seen.
You just can't help yourself, can you, Blanche?
He said, you're good. But long story short, she had a dream and she was ready to do this. She loved him. She cared about him. But then it didn't work out because she wasn't Jewish and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So she was sad but relieved because it would have had special problems.
It would have been different. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's kind of relatable. There's a lot of relationships now that have special issues,
Oh, yeah, sure.
You need to be committed to your person if you want to go through the storm together.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, Rose was definitely a fixture on the Golden Girls. We're glad that was part of that.
Yeah, because without her component, it wouldn't have worked.
I agree.
It wouldn't have worked. And that goes standing for all of them. They were all needed.
They sure were.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, was it January of 21? The actress Betty White passed away. So she was the last standing Golden Girl.
The last one. And the fact that she made it so far past the other ones. Like,
yeah,
she was the last, but it wasn't like she died a year after the other ones. You know, like
Right.
she went. Her career spanned a long time on TV.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did. Yeah, Rose and her St.Olaf stories. She was definitely special people, but I'm glad we got a chance to talk about her this week. You know, it's awesome for an apple snack, especially after coming right off of talking about the Golden Girls, fresh off of that, our last season. So,
Yeah.
Stay tuned. We're going to be going through the other 3 Golden Girls, so you know where to catch us. We'll see you on the Flip Flop Archivers.
And that's it for this week's Apple Snack. But as you know, there's always more where that came from. So stay tuned. Subscribe, rate, and spread the word. See you next time in the Retro Orchard, and thanks so much for listening.